There is a timeless Buddhist parable that speaks to the dangers of being too kind without discernment. It is a story about a compassionate monk who lived in a small village and was known far and wide for his kindness and generosity. This story, while seemingly simple, offers profound lessons on the consequences of unrestrained kindness and how the very virtue of compassion, when unbalanced, can lead to unexpected suffering and harm. Shastra, the kind monk, and the robber. In ancient times, a monk lived in a small, peaceful village nestled among the mountains. The monk was highly revered by the villagers for his wisdom, kindness, and gentle spirit. His heart was open to all, and he extended compassion to every living being he encountered. The monk was so dedicated to his practice of kindness that he never refused anyone in need, no matter their background or circumstances. His generosity was boundless, and he was known for helping the poor, the sick, and even those who had wronged others. In the monk's eyes, every person, no matter how flawed or broken, deserved kindness. One day, a notorious robber arrived in the village. This man had committed countless crimes, plundering villages and leaving destruction in his wake. His heart was hardened by years of greed and violence, and his reputation spread fear among the villagers. However, the kind monk, true to his nature, did not see a criminal in the robber. He saw only a man who was suffering and in need of compassion. The villagers warned the monk to stay away from the robber, but the monk refused. He believed that his kindness could change even the most hardened heart. When the robber came to the temple where the monk lived, the monk welcomed him with open arms. He provided the robber with food, shelter, and comfort. The robber, though initially suspicious, was touched by the monk's generosity, as he had never before been treated with such kindness. For weeks, the monk continued to care for the robber, hoping to reform him through kindness and compassion. The robber accepted the monk's hospitality, but in his heart he remained unchanged. His greed still drove him, and despite the monk's kindness, he began to plot how he might steal from the temple. He saw the temple's modest treasures, its offerings of gold and silver, the relics that the villagers had donated, and decided that he would take them for himself. One night, as the monk slept, the robber crept into the temple and began to steal everything of value. He took the sacred objects, the coins meant for charity, and even the food meant for the poor. The monk awoke to the sound of the robber's footsteps and caught him in the act. Despite seeing the robbery unfold before his eyes, the monk did not raise his voice or try to stop the robber. Instead, he said softly, "If you need these things, you may take them, but please leave what you do not need for others who are suffering." The robber was shocked by the monk's reaction. He had expected anger, perhaps even a fight, but instead, the monk had offered him more than he had even intended to take. For a brief moment, the robber hesitated, confused by the monk's unshakable kindness. But the years of greed and violence had hardened his heart beyond repair. He took everything he could carry and left the temple, disappearing into the night. The consequences of unchecked kindness. The next morning, the villagers discovered the robbery and were devastated. They had trusted the monk to care for the temple and its treasures, and now everything was gone. The monk, however, remained calm. He did not express anger or regret. In his heart, he believed that his kindness was the correct path, that perhaps, in time, the robber would reflect on the monk's compassion and change his ways. However, days turned into weeks, and there was no sign of the robber. The village, once filled with trust and admiration for the monk, began to turn against him. They could not understand why he had allowed the robber to steal without resistance. "Your kindness has brought ruin upon us," they said. "How can we trust you to protect us if you allow evil to go unchallenged?" The monk tried to explain that compassion was the highest virtue, that he believed in the potential for goodness in every person, even the robber. But the villagers were not swayed. They felt betrayed by the monk's blind kindness, which, in their eyes, had only enabled the robber to continue his crimes. As time passed, the village became poorer. Without the temple's treasures, the village had lost a source of support for the poor, the sick, and the elderly. People began to suffer, and the once thriving community was now struggling to survive. The monk, though unwavering in his belief in compassion, began to question himself. Had his kindness truly helped anyone, or had it only caused more suffering? He realized that by failing to set boundaries, by not discerning when to be kind and when to hold firm, he had allowed harm to come to the people he cared for most. His unchecked kindness had not changed the robber. Instead, it had enabled him to continue his path of destruction. The return of the robber. Years later, the robber returned to the village, this time not as a criminal, but as a broken man. His life of greed had brought him nothing but misery. He had amassed wealth, but it had slipped through his fingers as quickly as he had stolen it. His heart was heavy with guilt, and the monk's kindness had stayed with him, haunting him for years. He went to the temple, now in ruins, and found the monk, who was much older and frailer. The robber knelt before him and wept. "I have come to seek your forgiveness," he said. "Your kindness, which I did not understand then, has followed me all these years. I see now that I was wrong to take advantage of you, but I also see that your kindness alone was not enough to change me." The monk looked at the robber, his heart heavy with sorrow. "I forgive you," he said, "but forgiveness is not enough to undo the harm that has been done. Kindness without wisdom can lead to great suffering, as we both have learned." The robber, now humbled, asked the monk what he'd do to make amends. The monk, who had spent years reflecting on his own actions, replied, "True kindness is not just about giving without thought. It is about knowing when to give and when to hold back, when to trust and when to set boundaries. If you truly wish to make amends, go into the world and use the wisdom you have gained. Help others, but do so with discernment." The robber took the monk's words to heart. He spent the rest of his life trying to right the wrongs he had committed, helping those in need, but always with a sense of balance and responsibility. The monk, too, continued to practice kindness, but with a new understanding of its limits. He realized that compassion, to be truly effective, must be tempered with wisdom, and that sometimes the kindest thing one can do is to say no. The moral of the story. This story illustrates the importance of balancing kindness with wisdom. The monk's unrestrained kindness, while noble in intention, ultimately led to harm, not just for himself, but for the entire village. The robber's exploitation of the monk's generosity serves as a reminder that not all acts of kindness are met with gratitude or positive change. True kindness requires discernment. It is not about giving endlessly or sacrificing oneself without thought. Instead, it is about understanding the needs of others while also recognizing your own limitations. Boundaries are essential not only for protecting oneself, but also for ensuring that kindness is effective and meaningful. In a world where kindness is often mistaken for weakness, this story teaches us that the most compassionate act can sometimes be one of restraint. True kindness is not about avoiding conflict or pleasing everyone. It is about acting with wisdom, empathy, and clarity, ensuring that our actions uplift others without diminishing ourselves.